Shalom. Call Halalim La Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham, Rukaha Kwadash, double honor to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. Shalom and salutations to the elect scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. Alright, Lord willing, this one will be quick. Straight to the point.
Watch this video and tell me if you think the soul would transfer to the new body.
This is going to blow your mind. A startup company called BrainBridge announced today that they believe that they will be able to successfully perform a head transplant surgery in the next 8 years. The way that this would work is you would take a person with a perfectly healthy and active brain, but their body has cancer or paralysis, and transplant it to a brain dead donor body. What's crazy is that they said that by doing this, the person that's receiving the new body would still be able to maintain their memories, cognitive abilities, and consciousness. They say that the brain could last several hundred years if it had a good working body, and that might be a potential in the future, but that this would also give people with different ailments a second chance.
I have to play that again.
In the next 8 years. The way that this would work is you would take a person with a perfectly healthy and active brain, but their body has cancer or paralysis, and transplant it to a brain dead donor body. What's crazy,
Man, this is a perfect example of what happened to Saul. The Lord, lifted him up, gave him power, and the pride got to his head, man. He thought something of his head is himself. He thought he was greater than he was. When the Lord clearly states in the scriptures that he can lift up stones to do the work that we're doing, that the hopeful men of the Lord are doing for him. So Esau, straightforward, the pride that is in his heart, roughly paraphrasing, has deceived him, as it says in I think Obadiah, right? Him that dwell in the clefts of the rock. That's you, Esau. You're merely just a tool. And these things that you imagine, these vain things, you will never be able to achieve it, because the scriptures plainly tell you, who those things belong to. You're merely just an instrument used to punish the Israelites. You're the wicked. The earth has been given into your hands to cause destruction and lamentation and horror on the earth, on the people of the earth, man. You are the wild man. You are the beast, man. You are the devil. The Bible speaks of. And you're gonna be destroyed. These things are vain. These things you will never be able to achieve. Let me just get the the precept that I have here. I have a few, but this is Deuteronomy chapter 32 verse 39. It says, "See that now I, even I, am he, and there is no God with me." There's no God with Yahweh. Below Yahweh is his son Yahweh Shai, our savior, a redeemer, or her access to salvation. The Lamb, which is Yahweh Shai, right? But there's no God with Yahweh. Yahweh gives power to Yahweh Shai to do the things that Yahweh Shai has done, which is also creating things as well. But it says, "I kill and I make alive, I wound and I heal." So Esau, you cannot make alive, right? You cannot remove a head or put a robotic head on a new body and it functions. That's impossible. And if that was even possible, the Lord is the one that's doing it, and the Lord is the one that's making you able to do whatever you're doing. But this is just vain thinking, man, because he thinks himself to be God. And you Israelites, you heathenistic 2/3 Israelites that don't know that you're Israel, don't know that you're Yasharallah, you believe these things, man. And let me just get this quick before I forget. This is John chapter 8, because Yahushua didn't speak to you people nicely, man. He was very rough, austere, man. He said, "Ye are of your father the devil," talking to you, you Israelites, man. You so-called Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans. on the other nations too, because we already know Esau is of the devil. He is the devil. And it says, the lust of your father ye will do. And the father is referring here to is the so-called white man, the Edomite race. The serpent, Esau, Edom. And it says, he was a murderer from the beginning, and but abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. So there's no truth in him. If there's no truth in Esau, what's in him? Lies, man. It says, when he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it. So he is the father of lies. He half of these things that he thinks himself or fancies himself to do will never happen. That's just Yahweh Shemel Shai deceiving him, right? As it says here. This is Job chapter 12 verse 16, where with him is strength and wisdom. The deceived and the deceiver are his. The deceived and the deceiver belong to Yahweh Shemel Shai, Bahasham Rakakodash. So Esau, you're just merely a deceived vessel, man. A wicked vessel made to be deceived, made to be used as a tool to destroy and deceive people on the earth. This is Second Thessalonians chapter 2 verse 4. I think it's chapter 2. Yeah, verse 4. It says, who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, all of these guys present themselves as some form of gods, some form of creators. I make this, I do this, we can do this, there's no limit, let's push the limit. This is the image that they push. They don't talk about Yahweh Shemel Shai. They don't talk about God. Even if they do, they're referring to the spiritual demon Satan, because that's the devils that they are, man. This is a spirit that they come in. They oppose it and exalt it themselves above, Yahweh Shemel Shai. They have been deceived, right? The deceived and the deceiver are his. So this is I'll just run through all of them. This is Psalms chapter 17 verse 13. Arise, O Yahweh, Bahasham El Shai, disappoint him, cast him down, deliver my soul from the wicked, which is thy sword. We need deliverance from this devil, man. That's why we pray day in, night out, for the deliverance, man. That Yahweh Bahasham El Shai, keeps his spirit with us, man. That we can endure these things, that we get stronger and stronger each day in faith and in endurance, man. Because this world that we live in is terrible, man. This devil, he wants to destroy everybody, man. If he's allowed to do what he wants to do, the Lord allows that, which is not according to the prophecies. No flesh would be saved. These things that he's trying to do, he wants to kill people. He wants people to volunteer for their heads to be taken off, and a new head to be attached to it. Creating cyborgs, which he has the power granted by Yahweh Shemel Shai for him to do that to an extent, but not removing a head and putting on an artificial head on a human body and expecting it to work. That's madness. So he's definitely gonna be disappointed and cast down, right? So this is Job chapter 20 verse 6. Is that though his excellency mount up to the heavens, because Esau has been given the power to do a lot of excellent things, not because he's great or Yahweh Shemel Shai chose him or anything. He is just used as a tool. He is a sword of Yahweh Shemel Shai. There's nothing special about Esau. So it says, though his excellency mount up to the heavens, his head reach unto the clouds, yet he shall perish forever like his own dung. They which have seen him shall say, where is he? Right, because he'll only be a dream and a memory. You know, Esau is a cancer in the earth that will be removed and needs to be removed, right? I probably can go up more in this chapter. Let me see what other verses are here. So it says, so this is verse 4. It says, knowing thou not this of old, since man was placed upon the earth, that the triumphing of the wicked is short, and the joy of the hypocrite but for a moment. So it's just gonna be for a short while. For us, it seems like a long time, you know, but really and truly, you know, always remember, like, one day to Yahweh Shemel Shai is 1,000 years to us. Esau hasn't even been ruling in the land of America for more than 400 years, right? It's less. It's less than 300, right? If my math serves me right. So the point is, his triumphing is just for a short time, man, because he gotta go. He doesn't reverence Yahweh Shemel Shai. He puffs himself up. He imagines all of these vain things, you know, that, you know, he imagines that his kingdom is going to continue forever and he's going to continue doing wickedness and go unpunished, but not because he hasn't been punished yet. Means that the punishment is not on the way. You know, as we know, these scriptures, you know, these prophecies are speeding up. You know, I had to, you know, jump on this, you know, video real quick. You know, strike while the iron is hot. You know, because Esau is really, like, he's doing too much. He's been doing too much. You know, he's planning all of these things, you know, and they're not gonna come to pass. Pretty much, right? So that's all I pretty much have to say on this. You know, death to Esau, death to Babylon, man. Kal halalim no Yahweh Shemel Shai. Shalom.